Coming up here in a few minutes, we have the governor of this state, John Kasich. And the headline of the Inquirer, written by Denise Smith Amos and Jessica Brown, is Kasich school funding enough? It's never enough with liberals. Spend, 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 and spend some more. The more we spend on education, it seems like the less results we get. So I'm going to have the good governor with me in about 5 or 6 minutes at your home of the Reds, who, by the way, after the Super Bowl, it's going to be all about the Reds, Reds, and more Reds. Good friends of mine like Joanne Sirdar are buying large amounts of Reds tickets this year because we have more confidence than ever that the Redlegs are going to march to glory and, for some, the judgment seat of God. 1229. But I read the story itself. The superintendent of Cincinnati schools, I would assume not a conservative Republican, says, quote, every superintendent was happy that no district is getting less money. And so even in Cincinnati, they're saying they like the school funding plan, but the article, the headline of the Inquirer, doesn't really communicate that. And when I read the story, people look happy. There's proposed increases in state funding by $1.2 billion, $7.4 billion, and $7.7 the following. In other words, there's billions of dollars of increases. Has this plan met with a lot of satisfaction to date?
Well, the answer, Bill, is that we just had 4 superintendents, including Mary Ronan, the superintendent of Cincinnati Public, and a gentleman who's a superintendent of Georgetown Exempted, Loveland Public, and in an education service operation, and they're all extremely pleased and happy about this for a variety of reasons. One, they're going to be in a position where they're going to have resources. Two, though, the plan is creative and it's imaginative and it's going to empower the leaders in our schools to bring about innovation and change. And so the reason why we can do this and we can afford to prioritize our education system is because for 2 years, we managed the budget right. We were able to reform our Medicaid system without throwing people off the rolls. When people retired from the government, we could replace them. We shrunk the footprint. And as a result of that, and the fact that our credit has improved and we've become business friendly through Jobs Ohio, we now have 122,000 jobs. And when you have jobs, you have revenue.
Right.
So through everything we went through in the first 2 years, we're in a position now to be able to prioritize some of the things we really care about. So, when you work hard, you're creative, you're imaginative, you create jobs, it gives you the resources you need to do things that are so right.
And as I understand reading your plan, if you go to a rich school district like Madera, Mason, Lakota, and you have, shall we say, do you get less state aid than if you're in a school district like Norwood or Cincinnati?
You will, because, the distribution of resources to educate our children, we know has to be determined on the needs of the individual districts. So if districts are able to do more for themselves, can, in fact, though they have a greater capability to pass levies, which they can keep 100% of, then we got to make sure that the children that come from poor districts are going to have the resources they need. And here's what we know. Money in and of itself doesn't guarantee a good education, but without money, you're not going to have the kind of education that our kids deserve. Now, let me just make one other point to you, Bill, that you'll find interesting. Sometimes people who run school districts say, well, why do I have to have a levy? Well, the alternative to that is to raise state taxes, and then you send your legislator up to Columbus to try to pull your nickels and dimes back to your district. But if you have a levy, you get to keep 100% of your dollars. And so this plan is designed to recognize not just the value that you have in your district, but if you have disabled students, if you have gifted students, if you have poor students. We are targeting, in addition to the basic formula, we're also saying these are things that have to be taken into account.
Now let's talk in a macro sense. I was with your good friend and mine, Sean Hannity, a couple nights ago, and we spoke about you. It always comes around to you, and we spoke about the fact that the more money you spend on education doesn't always mean you get better results, with Exhibit A being Washington, D.C., and many other districts around the country. Why does Ohioans and why do Americans in a macro sense spend more and more on education than any country in the world, and we get often less and less results?
Well, I think it's a great question. You have to remember that what we're doing with the dollars here is a follow-on to the rules, the regulations, and the transparency we already put in place, Bill. And let me tell you what some of them are. The third grade reading guarantee. We have people fighting tooth and nail to prevent us from saying that you shouldn't be promoting a child to the fourth grade if they can't read in the third grade. And some districts say, well, we don't have any money to teach them that. Well, I mean, what are they teaching them? Okay? So the third grade reading guarantee is intact. There are additional resources in this plan that they can have flexibility to make sure that they're intervening at an early age to make sure our kids can read. Secondly, we put into play an A through F grading system, something that was done in Florida under Jeb Bush. And it is designed, some of our school districts today get rated excellent and others get almost excellent and some get close to excellent. We're going to actually go to an A through F grade so that mothers and fathers, superintendents, teachers, and principals can have the transparency to make the changes internally. This was another very controversial area. Teacher evaluation, where we want to make sure that our teachers are doing the job based on the performance of kids on tests and their peer review. Another critical area. We brought Teach for America into Ohio. It had never been here before. So the funding comes as an overlay to the reforms that we've put in place. I'll give you another one. Building by building comparisons so that mothers and fathers can see how the schools are doing and they can intervene, and teachers and superintendents and principals can intervene. So you can't look at this in isolation of the education reforms that we brought about that were not easy to pass, Bill.
Governor John Kasich, a few months ago, it might have been a year or two ago, you told me that you were going to work toward a income tax cut. Many states around the nation, innovative governors, are working toward eliminating the income tax, increasing the sales tax, which is often paid by out-of-state individuals, especially when they come to PBS or the Great American Ballpark, and they leave their money here, and it creates economic activity. Are you on a path to eliminate the state income tax or simply reduce it?
We will have a program we'll unveil on Monday, Bill, that is comprehensive tax reform that is going to be mostly geared towards a significant reduction for small businesses. Because as you know, small businesses provide 50% of the jobs in the state of Ohio. But it will also result in a lower income tax rate for all Ohioans, but we believe that the emphasis has to be on small business. And little by little we get there, and we're going to have some very good news on Monday about what our program is. But I got to get to Monday so that we can unveil this in the proper way, and I can let the legislature know about it.
I had on Attorney General Mike DeWine about 2 weeks ago. I've had on Sheriff Richard K. Jones. I've had on Joe Dieters, Hamilton County prosecutor. All of them believe that guns in schools make sense if the local school boards approve it. And they're talking about in the legislature. I had on a couple of legislators the other day that talked about having enhanced training above the 12 hours for individuals with guns in schools. What does the governor say about guns in schools?
Well, right now we have Dick Ross, who's running our whole education program, working with school districts to figure out how school safety can be improved. And everything is on the table in terms of what these schools need. And I'm going to be anxious to see what the legislature proposes, Bill. But I want Dick Ross to get done with this and to make his recommendations to us. You should also know that I've put $5 million into planning money for purposes of developing a system. Mothers and fathers are faced today with, at times, with either their children or their adult children who have severe mental illness that can pose a threat to their family and to other people.
Right.
This is a big deal to be working on this, and I'm really glad I gave the $5 million, and hopefully they're going to come with a plan, and we'll be able to establish some sort of a statewide program where we can help these families. So
the governor of our state does not have a strict rule opposing guns in school?
No, I don't have a strict rule against that. And some districts are already doing it. So I want to make sure we get the total look at it, Bill, the 360. And I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, we're doing things that people are comfortable with.
I hope Ohio becomes the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, and coal's already ongoing. Do you have confidence that the Obama administration will keep its hands off Ohio's natural gas and let us do it?
I was just with Governor Hickenlooper. He's a really awesome guy. He's the governor of Colorado. He's a Democrat, and he and I have talked about this. We have a chance in America to become energy independent because of shale gas. And the fact of the matter is, Our regulations in Ohio, his regulations in Colorado are very good. And I have talked to administration officials about the fact that we don't want them in here intervening or shutting down this whole program. It's good for America. It's good for Ohio. It's good for all the people that are connected to this industry. And, we're going to, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we can run our own program. And look, Ohio has primacy on water regulation because we've done such a good job. The Fed said, okay, go ahead and do it. I believe we should have primacy in this area because our rules and regulations are consistent with economic growth, but also consistent with the need to protect the environment.
And, Governor, the jobs created by natural gas and shale gas and oil and coal, those jobs are not minimum wage jobs. Those are good middle-class jobs. And we got 7,000 guys and girls killed in the Middle East trying to defend oil. Ultimately, I'm sure it had a lot to do with weapons of mass destruction. But over the last 10 years, a lot of it had to do with oil.
Absolutely.
And so there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be an explosion. There's going to be a tanker that goes down. There's going to be a wellhead that blows out. There's going to be contamination. That is the nature of whatever we do. But we got 7,000 guys killed, oil tankers flying around the globe, sometimes crashing into bridges anyway. So it's not as if it's perfect, but if we can make Ohio the Saudi Arabia of shale gas and natural gas, my gosh, middle-class jobs. Education, everything. It just washes everywhere. But you didn't really answer my question. Is Obama leaving you alone when it comes?
So far, Bill. But look, there's rumblings, and I pay attention to them. I'm concerned about it. I am concerned about it. That's why I talked to Hickenlooper about this, and he and I are on the same page. And I have talked to administration officials. I've talked to the president about the fact that we have good environmental regulations. And, Bill, the reason we need them is precisely for what you're talking about. If we were loose, if we were reckless, if we disregarded the environment when an accident happens, we'd be in trouble. But because we put into play fair, strong, simple regulations that companies understand, I feel very comfortable in being able to say we're developing these jobs and at the same time we're protecting the environment. There is no need for federal regulators to come into our state. I'm watching it.
Governor John Kasich, lastly, you're now played the front nine. You've played 9 holes of your first term. You just got your hot dog, and you're teeing off number 10. What grade would you give yourself in the first half of your first term?
I'm going to let you grade me, Bill.
I'll give you an incomplete. Incomplete.
That's just outrageous. Here's the thing, though. I remember when I had my hot dog and we started the back 9 in our little golf match this year, and we were ahead and we hung on for a glorious victory. I'm looking forward to the rematch.
Well, that was client golf. I had to let you win to make you feel good.
Oh, come on. You've never played client golf in your life.
All right, Governor.
Bill Cunningham, thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
Right,
we'll do it again. We'll see you. I let the guy win to make him feel good by 1 stroke over 18 holes at Kenwood. But, my takeaway from that is this. We can throw $7 billion more at public education, but it comes down to moms and dads. It comes down mainly to teachers. But the most important factor in any kid's education, the first teacher, the last teacher, and the best teacher of every child is mom and dad. That's where it begins. And if moms and dads don't do their jobs at home, it is quite unlikely that even a good teacher can do their job in the classroom. So we can throw, according to the governor's plan, what is that? $7 billion. He's going to put $1.2 billion over 2 years. At $7.4 billion in the next 2 years, and then 7.7. So we're looking at almost $20 billion in additional funding over the next 4 years. But unless moms and dads do their jobs, very unlikely educational achievement's going to change one iota. So what's your reaction, if any? 513-749-7000 and pound 700, the new AT&T. Coming up later will be George Vogel of Channel 5 to talk about, of course, the Super Bowl and what it means for you and more. That's your home of the Red Legs, News Radio 700. WLW. All right, Billy Cunningham, right back to you, the American people I've loved so well and served so long. If you're not getting older, you're dead. Given the choice, I will get older. Let's go now to Dan, Steve, Brad, and many others. And Dan, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show. Give me a full report.
How you doing, brother?
Good, Dan. Give me an update.
No, you had your governor on, and you didn't ask him about stealing jobs from Kentucky.
Well, now, what do you mean my governor, or what do you mean Kentucky? I was born in Kentucky. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's where I keep all my yesterdays. What are you talking about?
Well, I had Governor Beshear on, see if he's going to try to steal jobs from Ohio.
He is.
That boy Kasich guy, he stole two beautiful businesses in a hurting city like Covington.
I tell you what happened, Dan. I had him on about a couple months ago, and I asked him that question. I said, how is it fair for you to poach Covington and Newport businesses, especially high-paying jobs with a tax base, out of Covington and simply switch them quarter mile to the north? And he said, that is the game that we're playing. It is the life that I've chosen. And he said, look, Beshear comes into Ohio and poaches jobs out of Ohio.
Can you cite examples?
He gave me 3 or 4 examples of a small parts auto manufacturer that was in Marietta that moved across the river to Ashland, which I didn't know about. But he said, look, Michigan comes here, Florida comes here. There are 125,000 more people working in Ohio than when he took office, and he says, look, assuming, Dan, you're the governor and not a Kentuckian, and I get what you're saying.
I'm a Kentuckian.
I know, and assuming that's the case, if you're the governor of Ohio, would you have done what he did for Ohio? Yeah. Can I hear a yes out of you? Yes.